Hi everybody, it's Erika of the Knitkind podcast and Grapefruit and Gardenia Designs. And I'm jumping in today with a little bit of a different topic, but totally on par with the values of the Knitkind podcast. So today I want to talk to you about knit for food. It might be something you've heard of before, you're curious to learn more, it might be something you've participated in and you just want to hear a little bit more about my experience, it might be something that you've never heard of. So let me jump right in. Knit for Food in 2024 is in its fourth year. It was started by a knitwear designer, Laura Nelkin, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about her as well, so stay tuned. And this year, we are closing in on a 4-year total of $1 million raised to alleviate food insecurity in the United States and in some cases with some special projects abroad. This is one of the most grassroots efforts that I've ever seen. There are many of them, and a lot of times they get folded into bigger events that grow and grow and grow. But this is truly what you would classify as grassroots fundraising. And I have a fundraising background, so I'm going to touch on that a little bit too. But let's jump in with the most important information. When is Knit for Food 2024? It is Saturday, March 23rd, and it is a 12-hour knit-a-thon/make-a-thon, because you do not have to be a knitter to participate. It's just the marketing brand we went under because that is Laura, the founder's primary, I hope I'm not saying that wrong, but her primary craft in terms of her designs and teaching and things like that. So what does it entail? Well, as I said, it's 12 hours of knitting or making from Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Anybody can jump in. There is no minimum amount to raise. You can raise awareness. They do ask that if you're jumping in as a knitter and trying to fundraise, that you aim for a goal of $100. And with that, you get a link to different really fun Zoom activities during the day. So you'll hear from all the beneficiaries, who I'll list in a minute. And you might even get some fun little insights with other knitting celebrities. So maybe if you've seen Celebrity Jeopardy or Saturday Night Live Jeopardy, I'm going to say the knitting Jeopardy last year was probably a cross between the two and a lot of fun, and came at the end of the night when we all needed just a little momentum to keep going. So other things you might hear from are other podcasters, other designers, and just some fun things to keep us going throughout the day. I think in the past they've done some ergonomics for knitters. So a really nice little value add if you have access to the internet and you want to participate. But there's also no requirement that you do that. So Knit for Food, it benefits 4 organizations equally. Those 4 organizations are Feeding America, Meals on Wheels, No Kid Hungry, and World Central Kitchen. And World Central Kitchen is the one that does have some international reach. So there's tons of great ideas out there. There's so much need out there. But through a really thoughtful process, those are the 4 organizations. Some of it has to do with legalities and how funds can be made to nonprofits and disseminated and so on. But those were 4 well-vetted organizations that Laura and her team chose to be the beneficiaries of this fundraising. So every year it gets divided equally at the end of the knit-a-thon and goes to those 4 organizations. And last year, I think it was, I might get it wrong, but it was, close to $350,000, give or take a little bit. Maybe I'll put all of that in the description, but it's gone up every year. And like I said, this year, I think we are within a couple tens of thousands of dollars of making that $1 million goal. And once we do that goal, we'll be set even higher. Now, what's really important, and what I hope you're still listening to, because I wanted to get it in early in what I'm saying, is that most of that comes from $5 and $10 and $15 and $20 donations. Let me say it again, $5 donations. And why am I stressing that? Well, one of the reasons is I'm asking you to support either me or another knitter. And you're not really supporting me, you're supporting those 4 organizations and this whole team of people coming together. And I'm going to have in the little sidebar, I don't know which side, a little QR code that you can scan and take you right to information, how to donate, how to join the Facebook page and community if you want to participate in the event, and other ways that you can engage with Knit for Food. Now, what I want to do is destigmatize the $5 donation, the $10 donation. And I'm going to make an analogy for you. And I think this one is really relevant. When kids qualify or used to qualify for free school lunch, there was a stigma to that. When I was growing up, I'm almost getting a little emotional about it. I can think of kids who had to go through the lunch line and have the card. I don't know where this is coming from, but they said that they qualified for free lunch. And when I was young, kids didn't get teased as much as I think they do today, for all different reasons. But they did get teased for that sometimes, I think. I think I'm just thinking about kids right now and hunger. Sorry, I didn't expect this. Okay, I'm going to keep going because I think it's important to show emotion around these things. But kids got teased for that. And during COVID, if you remember, free lunch became a thing for everyone. And believe it or not, there is something to be said. I think I also have wool on my nose, so I have like a double whammy going on right now. I think I had mohair in my earlier. Okay, take two. I live in a wealthy community, and not everybody that goes to my son's school is wealthy. And some people would qualify for school lunch, and there's enough teasing that goes on around me that I see of kids. And destigmatizing things is really important for kids who need it and adults who need it. And so when free lunch became a thing for everyone, and kids who didn't need free lunch were getting it, I think there was probably a lot of feedback in our country, and probably rightfully so from a financial point of view, that we shouldn't be giving free lunch to everyone. And I have mixed feelings about it because I do think we need a lot of money in places that we aren't investing it. And many children don't need free lunch. But let's talk about one thing that did, which was destigmatize for those kids who do. The idea of getting a free lunch. And I talk a lot about textiles and the impact of textiles on our world and climate and using wool, even if it makes your nose itchy. And the idea of destigmatizing wearing secondhand clothes, whether they're hand-me-downs or you buy them at a thrift store, is really, really important, not only for kids and adults who financially need that assist, but for the impact on our environment. So I'm telling you this today because I think there is this thread here about destigmatizing things that are just, honestly, smarter for our world, more responsible. We have people who have made a lot of money in their careers who can't retire because it was more about how they spent their money than how they made their money. And I think, in terms of aligning with the values of KnitKind, we can do a lot better in a lot of areas, or what I think of as better. It's just more aligned with my values. So I did not know that was going to happen. And I guess I'm kind of glad it did. I showed you a little emotion. I still feel this way, and I feel like it's really important in the way that we all take care of each other in this world and can do more. So I am going to ask you today, if you're watching this and you can afford to make a $5 donation, that you scan the code or you go through the link to my page. And on behalf of all of the people who benefit from those 4 organizations, Feeding America, No Kid Hungry, Meals on Wheels, and World Central Kitchen, that you make that $5 donation today and destigmatize it for people who say, I'm so embarrassed I can't give because I can't give more than $5, or I can't give more than $10, please consider that. And by all means, if you can and want to give more than that, I'm not saying not to, and just saying if you're willing to do that and help others so that they feel like it still makes an impact, that would mean the world to me. So thank you. And the other analogy that I'm going to draw is that when you have grassroots fundraising campaigns like this, a lot of times, so much of the total funding comes in the last 48 hours. So I'm going to call that the avalanche of fundraising. I want you to help me and help Knit for Food in 2024 be more of a snowball than an avalanche, at least through my team. Okay, we have like Team Knit Kind here. You can go fundraise on your own, and that is as important to me as I don't care how much money I raise, but I want the organization, all 4 organizations, to benefit the most that they possibly can. So if we're more like a snowball and I get a bunch of those $5 donations that are going to get passed through and $10 donations, we can roll that snowball and have it be bigger and bigger, as opposed to that avalanche at the end when people are saying, oh gosh, it's today, please support me, don't miss the deadline, because there is a hard deadline. And once it closes, of course you can go to any of those organizations and support them directly, but you can no longer support them through Knit for Food for the year that we are currently in. So that's my fundraising pitch. So please consider it. And let me tell you a little bit more about the designer behind it, a little bit more of some of the questions that I asked early on. Last year was the first year that I participated as a knitter. I've had friends who have participated in previous years and supported them, but last year was the first year that I participated. And I'm so glad I did, and I hope it's something that I can always do. And here's my little joke aside. March is my birthday month. March is March Madness. I am usually glued during the week of my birthday and March Madness to that TV watching basketball. So I am even willing to, I will knit and watch basketball. But if there's a Zoom on at the same time as my team's on, I gotta tell you, I'll either have them both on or I'll be on that Zoom, because that's how important this is to me, my values, my community, and dare I say it, basketball's just a game. Oh, okay, I did. Moving on. So Laura Nelkin. Laura is the designer behind this. You can hear her story. In fact, Irina Shaar, who is local to me, and you may have seen, I did a little interview when I was on a knitting retreat in Vermont in January with Irina on her channel, Fiberchats. On Fiberchats last year, she interviewed Laura Nelkin, and I was already thinking that last year was the year I was going to jump in. But thanks to Irina for doing that interview, because I watched it in a very timely way, and that is when I decided, yes, you know what? I've heard more than enough. I have other friends who have done this. I'm jumping in. But I got to tell you, I had to test the water a little bit, because my professional background for the 15 years prior to when I paused or left the day-to-day workforce was in fundraising. I started my fundraising career at the Museum of Fine Arts, Boston, with a very impeccably professional team that raised unreal amounts of money to build a new American art wing. And I did have a background in art history, and I love the arts. I always have. It's tied into my crafting. I designed jewelry for many years while I had these professional jobs that ended up on this career going through the arts and also going through nonprofit fundraising. So for me to jump into a fundraiser, I have to be very mindful about that, because there are people in my personal life, as well as just my own ethics, that I need to understand that that fundraiser is responsible. And I don't mean fundraiser person, I mean fundraiser event is done responsibly, is done ethically, and all the things that come along with that, especially if I'm going to be asking my family and friends to give. And those are people who I know trust me and trust my judgment of a fundraiser. So the reason that I ended up, and I thank Laura to this day for having what I thought was going to be a 5 or 10 minute conversation about the event, and ended up, I think we were on the phone for like 45 minutes talking it through. And she said a few things during that call that I found even more inspirational. So I started that call just vetting, because you'll see if you do go to donate, donations go through a third-party site called GiveButter. And there are always questions about tax deductibility, as well as administrative fees, as well as what is the liability if this money is collected somewhere before it is handed over to a nonprofit. So while no one can ever guarantee you anything unless they are doing it themselves with their own hands, what I can tell you is I have asked every question and heard every answer that satisfied my questions / concerns, if only because I know intimately what can go wrong with fundraising as well, and small nonprofits, or pass-throughs, like when you see things of GoFundMe and others. We all know there are some horror stories out there. So this is not a horror story. This is the opposite completely. It is extraordinarily transparent. It is very time sensitive, and it was done, things were vetted and chosen in a way that was very responsible, both fiscally and socially. And part of that is that what I discovered in this conversation with Laura is that her mother was also in fundraising and also in arts fundraising. So I think we had an instant, I don't want to say connection in a weird way of like a personal thing, but for me professionally, I knew that if her mother had that and instilled this in her, which it was clear that there was like this process of she, within 2 minutes, like I knew things were in good hands. And then it was just understanding a little bit more about the back end process, asking some questions that I had and getting them answered, and so on. So that's my vetting process there, that if anybody out there is listening who knows me through the world of fundraising, I hope that helps as well. Now, in terms of tax deductibility, if you do want to make a gift that is tax deductible, you can donate directly to one of those organizations. You can put in your notes or your memo that is for Knit for Food, and then I will let me know, and then I will let the organizers know, and they can count it to the total, and it won't show up on my page, which is my GiveButter fundraising page. Okay, if you have more questions than that, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you want to make a bigger gift and you want to know how that can be done appropriately, please reach out to me. If you want to make a smaller gift, if you live within a reasonable distance from me and you want to drop off a cash donation because you can only afford, and I don't mean to say only, because what you can afford and feel good about is a $1 donation or a $2 donation, I will collect those and I will then make an online donation in the total amount reflected. And that has happened before. That has happened when an envelope is passed around a small group of people. So don't be shy. I think you should be, and I don't like the word should, but let's say, you can be proud of whatever it is you can give. And if what you can give is forwarding this podcast on your social media and not a penny, that is wonderful. And I appreciate that, and I thank you for that, on behalf of those 4 organizations and Laura Nelkin and the Knit for Food community. So I'm going to try to keep that short today. We're under 20 minutes, and I'm going to tell you why I'm wearing what I'm wearing. And then I promise you I will be back with some more Knit for Food as we build up to March 23rd. So stay tuned. What I'm wearing today is Laura's design that I knitted during the pandemic, I think. I'm pretty sure. I can remember what I was doing when I figured out all my math of how I was going to make my adjustments. This is called her Vindur Sweater, Vindur. You can find it, as always, in my Ravelry projects. I am Knitty Elf 40 on Ravelry. And I'm gonna, it's, you know what, it kind of looks funny on, cause anyway, it's in person, it's quite flattering. It's extremely comfortable. It's like I think she designed it as like a yoga sweater, maybe originally. This is the bulky version. I'm trying to remember if there's more than one version. I made it longer, and per my usual, my arms are not proportional to Craft Yarn Council standards for the rest of my body. So this sweater, really neat. It has a totally different construction. So if you see how this looks, and this is why I say it looks kind of funky, because between the yarn I used and the way that things film on camera, you might be getting some weird effects going on here. So I don't know what to say. I had to wear the sweater to do the video, but if you are, it's not like that in person. So it is knitted though, as you can see. Maybe you can't see, but it is knitted side to side. So see how my V's are like little arrows, like chevrons almost, the direction of my stitches. And then it is seamed up, not seamed, it is knitted along here. It's really, really neat. And if you like trying things just to try something new or for a different construction, check this one out. And she's got a whole series that I think she calls the Novice series, and just did some tutorials. So a little shout out to Laura and her designs while we're doing this. And I will not forget to show you my bracelet, which is also her design. I'm gonna stand up and see if I can do it not too clumsily to show you the bottom of this sweater. Now, like I said, I made mine longer. I'm tall. Compared to average, I'm 5'9". So I often lengthen my sweaters, and on this one, it has a bias, I guess you'd call it, hemline, a diagonal hemline. So it's longer over one hip than the other. So that's what I'm gonna show you. So, and you can wear it with soft pants, right? So I'm always wearing it with like black leggings. So over here, it kind of sits, this is a little shirt I have under it, but it kind of sits right under or at my hip. And then along the front, you get this slope. And then over here, it's below my hip, covering the hiney on this side. Fun, right? And the yarn that I knitted in is Rachel Jones. I think it's Jones. Gosh, I hope it's Jones Rachel. From On the Round in Maine. She does beautifully fun hand-dyed yarn, and I remember when this one came out, I had to have it. I had to have a sweater quantity. It was called, or is called, but it's not regularly in production, Christmas by the Sea. I mean, just everything about it. It had the colors I loved, it had the name I loved. Rachel's yarn is beautiful. So please think of supporting Laura as a designer, Rachel as a dyer, in addition to the Knit for Food community. If you are a knitter, check out their businesses. They're both hardworking, entrepreneurial women who I'm happy to mention. And so this is one of my cuffs by Laura. I mentioned that I also designed jewelry for like, gosh, probably 15 plus years before I even knew how to knit. And when I started knitting, I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to combine jewelry and knitting. And then I looked to see, what else was out there, and Laura's got that well covered. So, and she puts beads into the knitting. So this is really fun. The first half of this that I knit, I had some life events in there, and apparently I decided those life events were pearls. It wasn't intentional, but I knitted the second half last year. There was like a year in between knitting the first and second half because life got weird, right? Nothing major. I don't want you to think there was any, but like so much was strange the last few years. So I got a good chuckle out of the fact that the second half of this cuff is like impeccably not an issue with it. And the first half I looked at, which I thought was perfect when I did it, I don't know. It was not. Perfectly imperfect. I did not rip it out for two reasons. One, I have not, so if Laura's listening, I have not found the perfect crochet hook to be putting these beads on. It's tiny, it fits, it's all that, but man, I have a little bit of trouble. So I think I need a better solution there, and I should try the dental floss, but I did not get that one done. If you're wondering what I'm asking, it's how do you get beads onto fingering weight yarn? And you do it either with a teensy crochet hook, which all works well, except sometimes it splits the yarn or falls off. And you can do it also with a dental floss. So check out my Ravelry projects for these. And she sells really fun kits. None of it doesn't benefit Knit for Food. I'm not telling you in that way. I'm just telling you to feature another maker who does really cool things design-wise, knitting-wise, and clearly from a social responsibility aspect, okay? So that's it. Check her out, Laura Nelkin. Check out Irina's Fiberchats interview with her last year. I know she's going to be on other podcasts and has been on some, and she'll pop up. And there are so many amazing knitters, designers, and podcasters who are really doing a wonderful job of spreading the word about Knit for Food. So let's have all, Erika, all tides lift no ships. What I'm saying though? A rising tide lifts all ships. That's what I'm saying. So let's let the rising tide be Knit for Food. Everybody promoting it and for the right reasons, like awesome. Everybody is helping each other. Come on and join us. Knit kindly, live kindly, and I will see you a couple times before March 23rd, and I hope I see you on March 23rd on Zoom. Get in the little Brady Bunch with me, okay? Take care, friends.